Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's Friday night once again.
Yes.
And you know what that means, Keri?
What does it mean?
It's Prodigy
Prodigy Real Estate
Live. Anyway, so it's an interesting thing we're going to get into. What's the topic for tonight? What is the topic? This is a topic that, well, before you say it, everybody here banks with New York Community Bank, and then quite a bit's happened with, you know what? I don't know if my mic is actually working.
Oh, no.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Ciao.
Can we?
No, it should be, I don't know.
I don't know. You would know more than me.
But we're going to be talking about, we got the mic. See, you always see me in the beginning, I always check, I have to look down to check the mic. So it's like, I got to always go like this. Like, it's like, so every live I do, I seem to be like looking down at least at one point. When I actually should be paying attention. It's like, that's what I should be doing before I get on camera than afterwards. But,
Okay.
but everybody who banks at New York Community Bank, that's one of the things that we're going to be discussing with the topic. And why don't you just give us the topic in this way?
Yeah. So the topic for today is, what is the Fed's plan and how is it going to affect real estate?
Yeah. How is it going to affect real estate? I don't know, Keri, you do the numbers. We get them. What is it? We do them twice a week.
Twice a week.
Twice a week on Thursday, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, right?
Yep. Every Tuesday and Thursday. Look out for them.
Look out for this.
It's set time.
And we were talking a little bit before time, like you're becoming synonymous around parts of Staten Island for the jazz hands.
Yeah. I got to trademark it.
Nope. I own the rights. I'm only kidding. I'm going to trademark your hands, Keri.
Oh,
anyway, but the big thing is that we're going to be talking about this issue about what the Fed's plan is, because it impacts it more. It impacts 10-year treasuries, which impacts mortgages. So they're not necessarily coinciding with one another. But what is it going to mean for real estate? You know, we're going into home selling season now, right? So a lot of people are like, where is the mortgage rate going to be? Like, what should I expect? And we're going to kind of break that down based on some of the things that I did some homework on, some of the things you did some homework on.
Yeah.
The ones of artificial intelligence for both of us. We can do homework now so quickly. It's great. The interesting thing is that it's a strange time. As always, I've always said that we're just in strange times overall.
Yeah. 2024 is weird.
Yeah, I know. 2024, the year you turn 24.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah. So like you're a 2000 baby.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
2000.
You just remind me of that's the year I got married. Literally.
Great year.
Yeah, you know a lot about it?
No.
Y2K? Y2K. Any Y2K people out there? We're on Facebook, so there's definitely Y2K is out there. So,
yeah.
But getting back to the core of the discussion tonight. So it is some things that we're really concerned with. Moving into the spring months. So one of the things is that the Fed, there's like a betting market for anybody who wants to know about this. There's a betting market on like whether the Fed's going to cut rates, or hold rates, or increase rates. So these percentages break down. I think there was a scheduled, or they were estimating that the Fed rate cut was going to happen in March. Which is the next FOMC meeting. They're scheduled, but the bets ahead, especially after today's news that headline inflation is also up. And I've said this before. I don't believe at the end of the day we're going to be able to solve the inflation question. I think there's a tipping point here. I think some of the things that are missed, there's a lot of things that are missed about what actually is going on and why it's important for you guys, because there's a lot happening at once. And if you kind of miss it, I feel like you may miss something important here about like where this may go. But, you have some questions, and I know I'm just like rambling.
No.
Ramble!
Yeah.
Anyway,
My
I see you actually did your hair straight today.
I did, because tomorrow I'm curling it.
Tomorrow you're curling it.
Yeah.
What's the big plan for tomorrow?
Nothing
No.
so far.
There's always a plan.
There will be.
Don't let her kid you.
No.
Anyway. So what do we got here, Keri? What do we got going on?
I want to talk about the recent issues with Midsize Banks.
Yes.
So there has been problems with Midsize Banks,
Right.
particularly related to uninsured deposits.
Yeah. So Janet Yellen this week met with. She had a meeting with Congress related to this particular issue about what we call private banking.
Private banking.
So some private banks issue mortgages without FDIC insurance, and it's been a major source of trouble that Janet Yellen was actually called into Congress about the rate of defaults. Now, I want to be clear about this. One of the issues it's like lending outside the typical structure of the banking system. So it's not like a lot of it involves like what she was addressing was the amount of defaults that these companies have. Would it have a broader impact? So they may not have the same lending standards as your typical lender, which is kind of strange. You think something like that would be more regulated, and it's not. So some of them are involved in commercial real estate, and a lot of them so some of the underwriting standards may not necessarily apply. So in order for you to be FDIC insured bank, you have to meet eligibility requirements that like there's a certain amount of reserves. There's more transparency within the Fed, within the bank, with the Treasury, U.S. Treasury, who handles FDIC insurance. So they're going to basically like ask the question, like, do you have your proverbial, together? And they're going to check it, and they're going to really look at it from that standpoint. So I really think that at the end of the day, what it looks like is the Fed is wanting to get like ahead of this. If it's a problem, how we're going to address this problem? What do we think we're going to do if this, and what do we call, and it's not very widely known how far and vast this problem is. So there's defaults, just so you know, the defaults across the board have increased on almost every financial instrument, from credit cards to auto loans to mortgages. Now they're up. Now it's an uptrend. By historical measures, though, it's not like overboard. But there's a lot of things that are coming due. And I think that's where like companies are starting to get nervous, because what happens is those balance sheets. So I know that recently there's a lot of layoffs and all these things, because what happens is as companies see their balance, if the tide doesn't turn, they're like, okay, we have to hedge our bets to say this isn't going to continue. So we're not going to be profitable moving forward. We have to start making cuts now before profitability and survivability becomes an issue. So I think these issues with these mid-sized banks, some of them being, some of the private mortgages, the private mortgage lenders, which are out there, can be it's a source of trouble. So, and it's not really, it's underreported, even though Janet Yellen is obviously the Treasury Secretary. She was pretty like that it can be a problem. It's just, it's unregulated business.
Yeah.
So it's not regulated, and because it's not regulated, it's not FDIC insured, so it's like things could just, like, you wouldn't know why something becomes vacant. And I don't know, like, there's some issues there. So, I mean, I definitely think that's a problem. But we have some other problems with FDIC insured ones, too, and I think you'll ask me about that.
Yeah. Can you explain the role of the FDIC in protecting depositors?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. Yeah, that's a good question, because I think one of the things is like people get nervous and like worry about bank runs and like, okay, like New York Community Bank. It's been in the news. It was at $14 a share, plunged to like almost, I believe it's like 60-something%. Wow. They had a couple of bad loans go bad, so anybody who's in New York Community Bank, some people panic. What they do is they panic, they run to the bank because they're like, well, if the bank is going to go bankrupt, I may not be able to get my deposit money, right? And it's what are we going to do from there? I was like, we have this problem. And I want to run to the bank and get my money out in case it doesn't. But FDIC insures, and this is like the biggest thing now. It's like the FDIC is insuring the money. And I think one of the questions that was asked of Janet Yellen, even in that particular case, is like, does the FDIC insurance go far enough? Some people speculating that FDIC, with their charging banks to offset losses, is not far enough based upon the risk that's been taken in the last 10 years. My question is, we're going to get to why with the Fed, and this is all leading up to that pivot point, where we're going to talk about that Fed thing and what's going to happen to the real estate based on some of this. But it's an interesting topic with how the Fed is going to respond, because I think this is going to lead up to what my conclusions are obviously going to be moving forward. So, and I'll have that at the end. We'll leave people in suspense over it. Let's say that.
So I have here that something like this kind of happened last year with Midsize Banks. How effective has it been in preventing losses for uninsured depositors in past bank failures?
All right. This is a short topic.
Yeah.
And I'm a little annoyed by some of the things that actually I put into some of the searches, which is a little skewed, like where the information comes from. But SVB Bank was made whole without FDIC insurance. Oh, yeah. The depositors. Now you assume, and this makes me livid. I'm absolutely livid that, and it's, you know what? No one talks about it, and it's a problem. Yeah. So they took the non-insured depositors, made them whole without insurance. Like, what could you possibly be thinking? Yeah. So it's like, picture you get into a car accident, right? Yeah. You've been paying $5,000. Yeah, not. Oh, God. We almost had an accident here. But picture you like driving, and like you pay a premium of like $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a month, and then someone who doesn't pay a premium, just drives around recklessly, whatever. You head down the road. They don't have a insurance, and they just wrap their car around the pole, and cause a lot of damage, and someone else picks up the tab. Yeah. And the name is the U.S. Treasury, who made the depositors just for SVB Bank whole. And they're not insured. Why is that? How does that happen? Yeah, and that's like, but as we move forward, this is the thing we need to pay attention to, because I think, I said it last time, they worry about the core inflation, they worry about stupid things like this, but when you start playing with market fundamentals, a failure is a failure. And if you're not insured, you're not insured. And I don't think at that point, if the depositor has made you have to have a sense of diligence, no matter what you're doing with money. People got to stop. The whole idea of like everybody could just be made right, it comes at a cost. And what happens is all their depositors, some of them millionaires, multi-millionaires were made whole. They got their money back from the FDIC, not insured money, and they were made whole. And some other people were left holding the bag in other cases who didn't have it, and it just depended. Why is this not a topic? Yeah. Why isn't it? Why are we going down this road? Because we are starting to come across, and you're saying how this happens again. What may it impact now? And it's like, let's make this right. Like, what is going on? Like, how does an uninsured certain people get made whole and other places not? I'm not saying that we're all sitting here with $250,000 in the bank, but picture like someone who has maybe, not impossible to say somebody has a $500,000 in a bank that if that bank goes, they're not getting the 250,000. They're only getting insured on the first 250,000. After the 250,000, it's over. And there's people, people think, oh yeah, it's $250,000, like a sale of a house here. The proceeds. Just picture your proceeds of a house, right? You sell your house, you go 55. You go to a 55 and over community. You sell your house for $800,000. You put $400,000 in the bank, and then you find out the bank closes. You're only insured up to $400,000. I mean, up to $250,000. The rest is gone.
Oh my God.
So, and that's something that people really need to think about.
Oh yeah, for sure. You don't want that.
Unless you're an SVB bank person.
An SVP?
SVB, which is what you call it, Silicon Valley Bank. Oh. Those people were made whole regardless. So those people were made whole, and they have millions.
Oh.
So they were not insured. And they still got their money. And then I bet you, though, if you were at New York Community Bank, you're not being insured over the 250. I could know. And that's where this is going to get dicey. Because if some of these things fail, it's like, okay, where's your money at? And this is going to be something to behold. And I think that's where we're leading up to the whole, what I call a mountain of news and information that leads me to a certain conclusion about where this goes. But
oh no.
Dun dun dun. But look, at the end of the day, people are waiting for things to fall. I'm going to tell you right now, there is not going to be any falling of the economy. It's a fallacy. It's not going to happen to the degree. There's too many. What used to be in play years ago is not in play, which is good for your generation to a degree. Because you wouldn't want really, like 2008 was a lesson in how to stop the market from falling. Okay. 2008 was a lesson. Mm-hmm. So meaning all the safeguards are in place to absolutely hold this thing together. Yeah. But there is a fallout for that. I'll tell you what that is. It's like, it leads me to the whole, like, where does this go? Okay. All right. So, yeah, well, we gotta save it to the end. Yes. So, what's next, Keri? You have something else?
Yeah. So here I have the recent banking crisis has led to a significant decrease in profits for the U.S. banking industry with a 45% drop in the last months of 2023.
Yeah, you're really getting these are the nice hard hitting questions that I love. Yes, because this was the problem last year. Okay, so what happens is banks hold treasury bills as reserve currency or reserves on deposits. So in other words, in order to keep liquid, treasuries are kept in the coffers of the bank. So they buy U.S. treasuries as debt. So obviously they pay a little bit of interest. Here's where the issue: why they're losing money, because most of their reserves are held at 1% and 2%. And they have to pay out for 5% in interest rates on deposits. Mm-hmm. So what's happening is all these depositors putting money in, there's outflows because the reserves are only making 2%. Their mortgage so the mortgages being what they are, right? Mm-hmm. So you let's just say someone doesn't refinance. This is like a precipitous problem when you have rates so. There's such a disparity in rates, and this is part of why the Fed's made a mistake here. Because what happened is the quickest increase in rates, so what you have is a big spread. So you have a spread of what's held in the bank's coffers, which is mortgages bundled up at 3.5%, and you're literally holding these in the bank as a reserve. Mm. So, and you have inflation, B, you have products that you have to pay out. a consistently higher rate due to the Fed rate. What the Fed is charging these banks to borrow, and what they need to give you as a depositor on, as a rate. Because you always need depositors' money, so you have to attract them through rates. It's just so you have stuff that's in the bank that's obviously not appreciating as much as they have to pay out. And this is a problem. This is why we're not going to solve it. Because it's the spread. I'm going to tell you something. They don't know what the hell they're doing. I swear, this got so out of control, and I don't think people really understand it because it's so screwy and it's very complex. It's so complex, and maybe I may be overstating myself here because if people watch this and say, "What the hell are you even talking about?" But it's important to kind of understand the nuances. Why you should be aware of it, because I do think that in the coming years, these things can become an issue. And people are worried about the standard of living, how they're, now you're talking, well, the Fed's accomplished one thing out of this. They got their layoffs. You don't have to go anywhere, but the last 2 months have been an absolute nightmare for the job. I just read so many places, you go on, it's like a TikTok trend of people getting laid off on Zoom. They record themselves it's like a trend because there's so many people. If you're that's the trending tag. It's people and it's scary.
Yeah, and it's even hard to find another job. My friends are struggling to find jobs out there, and I've seen TikToks of people crying. They're I go into places, I hand them my resume, and nothing.
Yeah, because it's now. You talk about, obviously you talk about AI and how that's impacted things, and we know I'm absolutely a nut job on it. I may be leaving here and spending my rest of the time figuring out some type of how to change the gravity of Earth. But anyway, maybe. But the big thing is that the interest rates, what they wanted to accomplish, is what they accomplished. They wanted layoffs as part of the equation. They got it in earnest. I don't know where these numbers come from. They have these jobless numbers, 3.7%. I'm there's something there's something wrong here. Someone's really what? Yeah, 3.7. I don't know. And you have people there's people and then you go on YouTube and you people screaming this is such a lie. They're oh, the market's great. And they're did someone say this is the best job market?
Oh my God.
Unless you're it's people, but the Fed wanted to accomplish that to get rid of inflation. They got that to agree. Obviously, it only hurts the people that work though. But if you bank at an uninsured bank, you're made whole.
Yeah.
So there you go. I don't know how to play it in any way. We can go on I could talk about this for hours, but we have a time frame. I know that Keri's friends are waiting for her. They'll be driving up into the front of the place.
No.
Beeping the horn. Keri, when are you getting out?
This is when I put my phone on D&D. So
okay.
No.
I know. I may get one pop up. But do we have any other questions regarding this?
Yeah, I do. So has the Federal Reserve taking any steps to ensure the stability of the banking system and prevent similar?
No.
No?
I think there's look, yes, they have. And I'm just being funny.
I know.
But it's the big part about it is I think what the Federal Reserve has done is this, what they call, this is the part of the 2008 to 2010 crisis where mortgages obviously went bad, and what they did was this quantitative easing and tightening. So what it is that in order to prop up and slim down markets, the Fed will buy, the Treasury will buy back its own notes to bring interest rates down. I mean, so it'll, in order to bring its own rates down, they'll purchase, the Treasury will buy its treasuries. The Fed will buy treasuries
The Fed will buy.
The Fed will buy treasuries to keep interest rates low. Now, I just want to put this, the Fed is private from the Treasury Department, and treasuries being issued are two separate things. So I want to make sure everybody understands that. But there's a thing in place where they'll tighten it up, which they're doing now. So the money supply, if you have the U.S. debt clock, it's a cute little thing. I think it's usdebtclock.org. You could actually see like how the quantitative tightening is working. Actually, money in supply is actually decreasing, which is supposed to be deflationary. And but you have such a high rate of inflation currently that it's not really showing much up in terms of real prices. But there's some news out there. I mean, the interesting thing is the stock market's at all-time highs, which is crazy.
The stock market is high.
The stock market, but they do have things in place, and I think that's where you're going to get a soft landing in terms of structurally. A structural soft landing. That doesn't mean you as a consumer are going to get a soft landing. It means the people that hold the strings are going to get a soft landing. So I hate when they say soft landing, because you go out in the street and you don't see soft landings. They come hard. So like what's going to happen on Main Street compared to like maybe some other institutional stuff, kind of similar to what happened in 2008, which is, they gave Band-Aids out to the people who actually got beaten up, and they got bailouts to the people who didn't, and they got made whole and profitable. So, yes, you got people, I'm not saying there wasn't things done for the regular person, but you lose your house, you lose your house. That's it. That's the end. You're in the street. And after that, they like did things like, you have to pay like, there was some, I don't even remember the names of them, but there was like homeowner, there's like assistance if your taxes, because the difference between if you short sold your house and your taxes were different, they made a tax break for that. What the hell's a tax break? What's a tax break when you lose everything? It's like, yeah, okay, great. Like I just lost my house and I got a tax break. Fantastic. We're all really excited for that. Yeah. Unless you're like, J.P. Morgan or something who gets a bailout, they get bailed out on all the bad they were able to trade in their bad mortgages. This picture like me writing on a piece of paper, Keri, I have a bunch of IOUs here that nobody plans to pay. I'm going to give them to you, and you're going to give me money for them. I have to give you money? Yeah. That's how you're the Fed.
I'm the Fed, okay.
And I'm going to write, I owe you.
Okay.
I owe you $10,000, but I don't plan on paying this.
Okay.
I'm going to give it to you, and you're going to give me $10,000. And that's how the game is played. So there you go.
Yeah.
IOUs. So the Fed made whole on that back then. So that's how the bailout happened, and that's what's going to happen now. I think what's going to happen now is this. I don't want to run over time here because we've been doing this for a while. The big thing is like, where does this go? I don't know if that's the next question, but there is.
Where do you see this going?
Let's conclude this because I know we're going to go on for a while, but. So this is what's going to happen. I'm going to tell people off the bat. I think that, and I said it in earlier lives that I've done. Yeah. I've spoken about this one problem that I don't believe there is no inflation cure. No. There is just, we have reached the point. I feel like there was a pendulum. The pendulum has reached a point where now the choices really become difficult for the Fed. The Fed is either going to do some serious damage here because the spreads between the banking sector is going to absolutely crack, or consumers are absolutely going to crack. And either way, both of them cannot survive much more of this rate. Yeah. And that's the sad reality. The country has taken on too much debt. Consumers have taken on too much debt. And basically, I don't care about, and I hate to say this happens in other parts of the world. Does it cure itself? Because once you get past a certain part of the pendulum, there is no getting it back. You don't get it back. You can't cure something because what happens is you build up a standard of living based upon it. I've said this before. Most of the GDP numbers that you see that are published are basically that's a debt. In other words, the GDP is being processed or being produced or being shown as productivity when it's really debt. So like if you see, we're up 2.4% in GDP, we're growing. No, we're not. Because you can't have a growth in GDP and have a growth in debt at the same time.
Yeah.
So you expect GDP is gross domestic product, which means productivity. But if your debt is increasing higher than your rate of productivity, that is why you have inflation. Okay. Because they're making decisions that they see a number and it's like, well, it looks good, and it looks like it's high. But what the high is actually, just like how everything else moves, it's a bubble. Even how the GDP numbers are being projected to the Fed is not real. So they're making decisions based on what I call the same inflationary pressure everything else is under, saying GDP. So the GDP is actually more reflective of the inflation than it is of productivity. So and they're making a decision based on this kind of choreography of like data that comes out, and it's not really going to. And I think there's some realization now that that's going to happen moving forward. There's going to be the end of there's going to be an acceptance that this is the new normal for inflation. There's no real, they're going to have to do it. So because it's either, how do you say? It's like you can't, after you take a certain amount of medication, there's no going back from the medication you're taking. And that's where the U.S. is at this point, I believe, at the end of the day. And it's not that it's bad. I'm not saying that it's bad. And I think definitely for the benefit of people, you don't want to see everything just like the market just like implode on itself. And it's not going to. And I think that's where people are making the mistake. There's a lot of people who are sitting on the sidelines saying, oh, well, this is going to get bad. And when it gets bad, the mechanisms are different. The whole mechanisms are different. I don't see that happening. I see rates coming down. I don't care what they say. They can talk on the news. And the funny thing is Wall Street will bank on them cutting rates. They already know what I know. And I can tell by the numbers. They know already what I know, which is they know. You don't see Bitcoin going up to, there has never been a point in history where you actually see money, a deflationary kind of cycle, and Bitcoin. There's never been these correlations. So they're saying to them, yeah, you keep telling us you're going to keep rates higher. They're bluffing. And because they know exactly what I know is that it is not possible to sustain rates without the banks literally imploding on each other. They're going to bail them out. I don't care. They're going to bail them out. It's either going to be a bailout, go back to the same thing, and create because once you get to that point, there is no curing inflation. Then you could really set the. So it's like they're really going to have to take a slow road to this. I don't know how that pans out ultimately. For you, I think, and for your generation, I think it's good. It's definitely a good thing. You're going to be upset that prices for you are high.
Yeah.
But you don't want the consequence of the other thing, was prices to come down to where you do. Because it's like no matter what you do, if the prices go down, so does your earning capacity. Because you make decisions based on prices going up, and that's why people say, well, I'm making more. Nobody really makes more or less. The funny thing is that's why, like, you say, oh, my father was a policeman back in the 70s. He made $25,000, but he was able to afford to live, and I make more money, but I can't afford to live because at the end of the day, your salary is only a consequence. That's just numbers on paper.
Yeah.
It doesn't consecrate to value, and that's why people get this all wrong. I mean, most people, they look at numbers. It's like, well, if I draw a couple of zeros, it makes it more valuable. No, it don't.
Yeah.
And that's why people get it wrong, and I think that's why people feel the pain. It's like, yes, it's like, and if the scary part is, and people could get upset. I mean, some people get upset at the idea because I'm more of a mathematics, practicality. Take all the it's like you can't. If you just picture like if everyone just got paid $1 million, basically no one's rich. Yeah. Because you couldn't get somebody else to do anything. If you have $1 million and I have $1 million, you basically have zero. And you have to think of the same, right? Everybody's still at zero. You just have a million pieces of paper and there's no disparity. So you're not going to do anything for like, $50 more. They don't want to I mean, at some point there's like a balancing act. It's like, is it worth more or less? If you could just spend, how it really gets spent is more of the question of like what the end result is. But they're not gonna. So the inflation thing, if you're buying a house or you're a buyer waiting to buy a house, how this goes into with some of the stuff into the real estate market. The real estate market's going to be held up, and you're not going to see prices come down much, because before it gets to the point where there's going to be any type of crisis level, the Fed will cut the rates back. If they feel like if there's anything like a crack, I think we're going to wait for March. I think May will be another indicator. There's another meeting. There is no. I thought there's still a probability in March they still may cut rates. May, with almost certainty, they are. And I knew this would happen last year. I said they were going to cut rates because I knew you could see the pressure building, and they're going to cut rates. Market's going to stay buoyed and higher, and you're going to see the market basically continue on this path. So, yes, we probably went over. But anyway, yeah, and that's basically where we're at. So if you're in the market, don't expect prices to come down much. Don't expect. You'll see rates. I think you'll see rates still hover around here. I think they can still bounce between. I think they're going to get as low as 5, but once it's going to be this balancing between 5 and like 7. There's going to be this kind of like bouncing around, because I think once the rates get to 5, prices will increase again, and then rates will pop back up again, because I think it's just between this. They're trying to narrow the road a little bit here. And there's a lot more nuance to this. And I probably could go on for a good hour and teach a lecture on that, what's really going on. But it's not scary at all. I think for the most part, besides a lot of people losing their jobs, I mean, that's probably, of course, the smallest people are hurt the most, right? I mean, but I don't think it's changing. I don't think they're going to change course on. I don't think prices are going to come down much. I don't think we've solved the bubble problem by quantitative easing and tightening, and you're not going to see you're not seeing 2008 again. And some people think you're going to see that. You're not. It's just not going to happen. But you'll see some resumption of inflation at higher rates. We'll see how that plays out. We're not really walking on like a good history of where this actually leads, and that's why there's so much questions. But Wall Street should tell you they already know that the cut's coming, and I don't care what they're saying on the news. I don't. The news is, and maybe you call me out on this later. You can call me out on it later. We'll see how that goes. But that's our thing for tonight. And it's going to snow tomorrow.
Yeah.
Aren't you excited?
No.
Last month you were.
Yeah, last month I was, but we already had a snow day this week. I don't need a.
They had a snow day. They're so lucky. Back when we had snow days, we had to trudge through
Yeah, honestly,
open mountains.
Yeah.
By 11 o'clock, it stopped.
I know.
The sun was coming out at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, at 2 p.m. I went to go let my dog play in the snow, and I was like, the snow's gone.
It snowed. That was actually probably when. Oh no, you actually did wake up because I sent the text.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what we have for tonight, guys. Thank you for watching. Great job tonight. It was really good. Really good.
Yeah, it was
a really good topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, excellent. Yeah. But we'll see you. We'll see you next week for the stats, right? We'll be doing the stats, New Jersey stats, and then we'll see you. The following, not next Friday, the following Friday.
Yeah.
I think Vic is going to do a live next week, and then we'll probably. Oh. And if you have a question, real estate wise,
let us
know, and we'll cover it down here.
Yes.
All right. Have a great night, folks. Happy Friday, and we'll see you next week.
Yes. Bye, guys. Good night.